Good evening, all. For our last discussion forum post, a topic of interest for the late 20th century, I chose the Reverend Billy Graham. It's hard to cram much of any of his work into a 3 to 5 minute topic because, frankly, he did so much. But I want to try to focus on a couple of things tonight. His one of his first big movements, and then his relationships with both the presidents of the United States during his lifetime, and his attitude toward desegregation in our country. Um, but to begin, um, Reverend Graham was born in rural North Carolina, 1918, dairy family on the outskirts of Charlotte. Fairly typical Southern family. Would grow up to attend Wheaton College in Illinois, which would help to shape his later views on desegregation. More on that in a few minutes. But his first major religious movement that the evangelist was part of, was what came to be known as the Canvas Cathedral movement in Los Angeles in 1949. And this is after he became the first full-time employee of the Youth for Christ movement. So even early in life, Billy Graham very active in the Christian faith. But the Canvas Cathedral crusade in Los Angeles was highly publicized, an 8-week movement that saw thousands of people brought to faith, from athletes to mobsters to entertainers to people from all walks of life. It was a massive, massive movement, and what helped get its notice out there was publisher William Randolph Hearst, who latched on to Billy Graham and saw this young man as a great opportunity to create this new public figure. So Hearst made several publications in newspapers about Reverend Graham, and from there his star was on the rise. And of course, as we know, later he became a famous evangelist through speaking tours, through work with the Southern Baptist Church. But again, a major focus for him later in life was his relationship with several presidents. First of which was Harry S. Truman. Obviously, President Truman taking over for President Roosevelt after his passing in office near the close of World War II is a tumultuous time. It was stated that Dr. Graham and President Truman, their opinions on such issues as the use of the atomic bomb their opinions were at odds, were somewhat contradictory to another, but that didn't stop them from having a very cordial relationship. In fact, at the beginning of the Korean conflict, Reverend Graham routinely urged President Truman to pursue the Korean conflict on the side of the South Koreans from a Christian standpoint, because, as he told President Truman, there were more Christians per capita in South Korea than anywhere in the world, and he said that those Christians should not be left to their fate without outside help. There was a rift later in their relationship between Truman and Billy Graham because of a disagreement on clarity, shall we say, when Reverend Graham spoke to reporters about conversations with President Truman. President Truman took offense to that, and so there was a rift there later in life. Another president that he shared close relations with was Richard Nixon. He and Nixon were very close acquaintances, both in and out of public circles. However, a large strain on the relationship was the Watergate scandal, even though Reverend Graham did include prayers for Richard Nixon for speaking occasions and did discuss policy with him. Watergate did cause Reverend Graham to back out somewhat of public circles, even though not long after it occurred, President Nixon still spoke at a Billy Graham function, so the rift could not have been that much. And last, Reverend Graham dealt with racial issues and desegregation very much throughout his adult life. He summed his beliefs and his ideals, or at least his ideals later in life, up best by saying simply that the audience of his speeches may be segregated, but the altar was not. He said that in 1952 at a very volatile time in American history, showing that his beliefs were, simply put, Christians were not to be segregated. Thank you all.